Welcome back to Business Live. Accra Brewery Limited and Kasapreko risk losing the operational licenses for breaching tax stamp laws. Also coming up in our summaries tonight, food sales hits Marks and Spencer in the United Kingdom. Let's have the details in our summaries.
Accra Brewery Limited and Kasapreko Company Limited risk losing the operational licenses after it emerged that the companies were fixing tax stamps illegally on their products. For ABL, they were transferring tax stamps meant for its current production to its warehouses. By this, the company was requesting for more tax stamps and affixing them on goods already produced and stored in their warehouses. The revelation was made yesterday, 6 November 2018, when the Ghana Revenue Authority embarked on a compliance and enforcement exercise in Accra. The tax stamp policy was introduced by government to check smuggled goods and also rake in the needed revenue for the state. According to the GRA, warehouse operators are enjoined by the Excise Tax Stamp Act to apply to the GRA for tax stamps to fix on old stock. This, however, was not the case with ABL during the enforcement and compliance exercise. In spite of a 4.5% moderation in expenditures in the first 7 months of the year, the fiscal deficit widened to 3.8% of gross domestic product GDP due to a drop in total revenue and grants within the period. This means the government exceeded its deficit target of 3.3% of GDP by 0.5 percentage points between January and July. The higher than budgeted deficit was occasioned by an almost 9% fall in revenue. Provisional data on fiscal operations within the period showed that revenue and grants, which were budgeted to end July at 27.17 billion Ghana cedis, yielded 24.73 billion Ghana cedis. On expenditures, the data showed that the government moderated its spending by 4.5%, and that led to a provisional outturn of 33 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 13.7% of GDP. In the 2018 mid-year budget review presented in July this year, total expenditure for the first 7 months was revised down to 34.6 billion, equivalent to 14.3%. The Consolidated Bank Ghana has recorded 5 fraud cases. Management of the bank disclosed this when it met workers of the bank at a town hall meeting in Accra last Saturday. According to the management, the culprits who were workers of the bank withdrew money from accounts of customers without any authorization. Addressing the workers, Deputy MD of the CBG, Thiaru Ndugu, said management will get tough on any staff found culpable. We have made one decision about zero tolerance. If you are caught in a fraud case, it is dismissal immediately. Immediate dismissal, he warned. He charged the workers to report colleagues who engage in suspicious acts. So please be on the watch. If you realize that somebody is committing a fraud and someone is taking customers' money, people taking customers' deposits and not depositing it yet in customers' accounts, please highlight it. Because that is what is going to kill us from the word go, even before we start. We've had about 5 cases so far, Mr. Ndugu stated. Were 2 months ago arrested for stealing 200,000 Ghana cedis from the vault of former Beige Bank. Bobe Kwamina Yeboah and Prince Abebio allegedly conspired to steal the money to invest in a car business. The Consolidated Bank is currently going through an integration process with workers yet to be employed.
Let's now head to South Africa, where Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, Egbert Fable Jr., has expressed Ghana's commitment to maintaining transparency of payment systems in the country's oil sector. The assurance comes as Ghana hosts an exclusive, licensing round in Cape Town, South Africa. The Aqua has the latest from the ongoing Africa Oil Week in South Africa.
Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Commission, Egbert Fable Jr., has started Ghana's attempts to woo foreign investors as blocks are up for bids and direct negotiations. He's been answering questions at a prospect forum here at the Cape Town International Convention Center.
Companies like Talo, Cosmos, Petro SA and the rest who are in the Jubilee Fields, as well as ENI, are practical examples of the transparency in Ghana's payment systems when it comes to carried interest and cost oil as against profit oil. So our record is there unassailable in the sub-region. And I think that you have not heard of any litigation anywhere between Ghana and any investor with respect to earnings from producing fields.
One of the issues we had until September last year was obviously the border dispute. Yeah. Now, if you don't want to answer the question, fine. From my perspective, as someone who is attracting interest into Ghana, it was a sticking issue, it was a problem. Once that had been declared legally as of September last year, 2017, as not an issue, therefore it was thrown out of court, that clearly has made a difference, certainly to us in terms of attracting people. Are you willing to comment on that in terms of being clean and gone and no longer an issue within Ghana? Because it clearly was an issue to people around the world. And again, I understand if you don't want to answer the question, but I think it's important to bring up.
It is a major de-risking factor. That ruling of ITLOS was a major de-risking factor in our upstream sector. And I'm able to tell you that our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, and his brother, Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire, I should say, actually post the ruling, decided that West Africa should be able to set an example for all other countries that have been involved in maritime disputes. So a joint committee has been set up between the two nations. I'm a member of that committee, and the two nations are working together. There have been meetings in Ghana and also in Abidjan towards a joint implementation of that. So both countries do not see it as a victory for any other side. It is about respect for, the ruling of the court and a joint working together to ensure that the ruling, trickles down and that there will not be any skirmishes or differences whatsoever once again. I'm happy to report that that philosophy, that mentality is very much existent in the two leaders, that is of Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, and also our peoples.
Mr. Fable also added that the country was poised to improve local content and was looking forward to opportunities to expand local content in the oil and gas sector. Darrell Kwao, Cape Town, South Africa.
Thank you so much, Darrell Kwao. To another story now. The opening of the Ghana Commodity Exchange by President Akufo-Addo is expected to create some 200,000 jobs for farmers and traders in the value chain. This was disclosed by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta during the launch in Accra.
According to the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, the exchange is part of government's vision to create an orderly, transparent and efficient market system for farmers. With the establishment of more warehouses and offices in the various regions and communities across the country, the introduction of the Ghana Commodity Exchange is expected to create opportunity for farmers.
The creation of approximately 200,000 jobs of both highly skilled and non-skilled jobs. Some high-quality jobs will be created by the exchange and commodity brokers, data analysts, risk managers, grading and certification officers, business advisors, storekeepers, credit officers, etc. While some of the non-skilled jobs include grain pickers and cleaners, winnowers, pillage managers, rebaggers, and loaders, among others. Out of this, a sizable number of women and the youth are expected to be engaged across the commodity value chain.
The Commodity Exchange is a regulated market that links buyers and sellers of commodities to ensure fairness in pricing. Former Executive Director of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Edouard Nanientwi, one of the brains behind the establishment of the GCX, spoke to Joy Business.
Contracts are not going to be like buy and I'll come and pay you the next week. This time when you sell through the exchange, once you send your commodity to the warehouse and you are giving a receipt, you are comfortable that you have a value, you have a security. You can use that receipt to take any credit or advance from financial institution, and if it is sold, immediately, just like the stock exchange, within 2 days maximum or 3 days maximum, you have gotten your money. So that clears remove the worry of people selling their produce to middlemen who would default in paying them. So that is a great thing.
The GCX is expected to connect farmers and buyers as well as creating opportunities for the agribusiness sector. Eben Sabote's report for Joy Business.
So let's do our big story tonight. It's that time of the month or the year again, and the budget will be read on November 15 by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. It's been an interesting year with some major challenges in the financial services sector. So, Budget 2019 is very important. It affects everyone. The 2018 budget said it will put Ghana back to work. What will the 2019 budget say? Should we expect it to make a big difference? How far will our money stretch? Here to talk us through what to expect and the discussions that we'll be having as part of our business program for the budget is Joy Business's analyst and researcher, Philip Namfuri. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
I see a big book in your hand.
Do you have your copy?
I'll borrow
Budget
yours.
2018, do you have yours? I'm not sharing anybody. Yo.
Really?
I'm not sharing. Anyway.
All right, Philip, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank
What
you
we
too.
put to work in 2018 before we even go into the discussion?
That's a subjective question or a subjective answer I would give. Some will say yes, some will say no. But on a lighter note, I remember when the new tax stuff was introduced, we were doing a lot of calculations. I would consider that as putting us back to work.
So you really worked on the figures. All right, so walk us through what we are to expect and what we'll be putting together for our viewers as part of our budget presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So for this year's budget theme, Joy Business will be using the theme, the budget 2019, the reality versus the numbers.
That sounds interesting.
Very, very, very interesting. What's on the ground and what's in this document that I have here, the 2018 budget. That's what is in here, match what the ordinary man or woman feels on the ground. So that's why we chose that theme, the reality versus the numbers. And the hashtag is going to be your budget. We want everyone to own the budget.
I want to ask you why the emphasis on your budget, the your, why that emphasis?
Because every time the budgets are read, the document comes out, everyone thinks it's a highfalutin thing. It's a disconnect from the ordinary man. But what happens in here, what is typed in here in black ink, affects you and I. So that's why the emphasis on your budget. We need to own it. And that's why we're here to break it down for every man and woman on the ground to understand.
So the ordinary Ghanaian will be asking, if you say we should own the budget, what exactly are we to do? What should we be doing differently from what we've been doing in the past? And say, okay, it's a bulky book out there, figures flashing all over the place. It doesn't really reflect in our pocket. So what should we do differently this time?
Okay, thank you very much. So on the ground are the issues, are the people who are actually spending the money, who are actually running businesses. And in the book, a raft of policies, programs, interventions that the government has put together. Government says they're going to put this and this on the ground. For example, in the budget, they said they're going to implement the Ghana Commodities Exchange, which they have done. Now, if the farmers are come to have a central platform to buy commodities, cocoa, maize, whatsoever, what are the intricacies that go into buying and selling of these things? Is it as easy as it says in the budget that we're going to implement this, or we're going to grow Ghana's financial services space? We're going to raise revenue of about 50 billion Ghana cedis. We need to match these things on the ground. And as you and I are taxpayers, it's our funds that are going into this tax net.
Exactly.
That's going to be used to spend on salaries, interest on our debt and everything. So we need to know what's happening. It's not just a big book for the finance minister and his friends or the ministry officials. No, it's for all of us. That's why I went to get my own hard copy, not
so
a soft copy. Yes.
Scan through everything there.
Exactly.
So what are some of the main discussion areas that Joy Business will be looking at? Okay,
so one interesting part, apart from the macro indicators, we'll see how far government has come, the revenue collection and then our expenditure. An interesting part that I think is very key is the themes of the budget.
Right.
With this one, it says putting Ghana back to work. Last year was sowing the seeds for growth and jobs.
Very interesting names,
very interesting names. And Shakespeare said, what's in the name? Are we really going to stick to these names? Do these names have effects on us? And apart from that, we're going to go on the ground and speak to people, contributors, people who come up with their opinions or their suggestions or their comments on how they feel about the budget.
All right, before I let you go, quickly, 30 seconds, putting us back to work in 2018, 2019, what should we expect in the budget?
Well, for now, I would say let's keep it at bay. Let's wait till next week Thursday. Let's see what the finance minister brings, and the discussions will continue from there.
All right, thanks so much, Philip Namfuri. It's a pleasure having you. So we'll be having a lot of discussions on the budget. So you have to keep an eye on Joy News. Joy Business has a lot of programs for you, but we go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we have more on Business Live. Welcome back to Business Life. Abandoning his comfortable life as a pilot in Germany, Eric Aqua is back home in Ghana to help farmers fight pesticides the right way. How? Through his business, Aqua Maya Drones Technology. Eric Aqua is our guest on the Joy Business Van tonight.
Concerned about the ban on the importation of vegetables into Germany due to the high concentration of pesticides in them, Germany-based Ghanaian Eric Aqua concluded that something must be done to help Ghanaian farmers. Putting his career on hold, he decided to bring back home what he does best, piloting, but this time for farmers.
I live in Germany, and for some time now, for about 3 years now, we realized that produce from Ghana is not making it to the German market, so we thought about it, and then we thought about how we as Ghanaians living in Germany can support or can do something, to help the produce from Ghana to come back to Germany, because the farmers cannot grow the crops without the chemicals. There are pests that they need to control.
The technique is quite common in developed countries such as Germany. Eric explains how the drone system works.
We use the GPS, so it will take a map of the land, and then it will we'll program it to spray, so it sprays everywhere on the land, and it has uniform spraying evenly across the land.
Just a year in operation, Eric has been able to spray about 40,000 acres of farmland across the country with his 30 drones. The outbreak of the fall armyworm was a booming period for Aqua Maya Drone Technology, as most farmers requested their services. The numerous benefits that come with the drone spraying method is what has enticed many farmers.
It's going really well. The farmers, most of the farmers we spoke to, they responded to it very well. And I also can say we came at the right time, because it's also a challenge, getting the workforce, the spray gang, the guys who do the spraying, it's been a challenge right now in the market. So the farmers don't get them to do the spraying for them. So they were very happy that there's a technology that will do the spraying faster, about 10 times faster than they will use the manual spraying, The drone sprays an acre in between 5 to 6 minutes. This is something that is not possible with the manual spraying. So with the manual spraying, you need almost about a day to spray an acre. But the drone does it in 6 minutes, and then it also saves you about 60% the chemical that you use. When you use the manual spraying. So you save a lot. The farmers save a lot of money, and with the chemicals. And also, the spray also sprays uniformly, so every inch of the land will get the same amount of the chemical. So it's not like the manual, some places get more, other places get less, and other places doesn't get the spraying at all.
Demand for Eric's services are growing not only in Ghana, but in neighboring countries as well. For now, Eric says he's determined to see a change in Ghana's agriculture sector at the expense of his career.
I would say yes, because, it's something we started out of passion. We started this thing in the need to do something to give back, from where we're coming from. I have a very comfortable life in Germany, that I can say, but I also feel like, I have a lot to give back to where I'm coming from, So from the response we are getting, and from how big it's growing, I believe I will be, stepping aside from piloting and then, concentrating more on this.
Eric and his team of 15 workers are doing their best to achieve their target of reaching 2 million acres by the end of 2019. Until then, he'll have to work through the ups and downs, including the challenge of getting financial support for his business.
We'll have to carry the drones with vehicles to the farms. And if you look at where the farms are located, they are very in the rural areas, and the roads, very bad roads, So this is one of our major challenges, And the other other challenge we also have is the support, you know. So looking at what we did now, you know, currently we have almost about 30 drones, you know, and next year we are projecting doing about 2 million acres. We will need a lot of drones, you know, and we also planning to start assembling the drones here, you know. So I mean, we need a lot of finance, you know, and the banks here are not really supportive, you know. Yeah, they don't see the need in helping a small a startup business.
Very interesting technology by Eric, and that's how we wrap up tonight on Business Live. But for more business updates, please do log on to myjoyonline.com for more business updates. That's what we have on the screen right now. Ibrahim Mahama sued over and paid 189 million cedis UT bank loan, and also we have 2019 budget must promote local capacity for input production. That's from the peasant farmers. And also on the front page there you can see, give us green light to establish banks. That's the SICMD to the BOG. So do log on to My Joy Online for those updates and more stories on our site. That's how we wrap up tonight. My name is Sandra Esenamapenu. Thanks so much for watching.